G'day Mindstars, welcome to UNPACK, the show about life shit. UNPACK is about having raw, honest conversations with people from all walks of life as they talk about their remarkable stories of well-being and resilience. And today I'm delighted to have Katie Johnston, who is the CEO and founder of Wild, the Lifestyle Co. We're here in her workshop. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on, what you do.
Yeah, well, it's quite varied. It's a lifestyle company, so we cover all things, it's all made in Noosa as well.
Yep.
So furniture, homewares, accessories, and zero waste living products, and soon a fashion range. So
what does that
very
mean?
exciting.
Zero waste?
Zero waste living products.
Yeah.
So it's like reusable cups, bamboo straws. So just to basically create products to replace the throwaway things in our society. Awesome. That results in a less of an impact on the environment. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So ecologically friendly.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
so,
excellent.
Yeah.
So UNPACK's very much about, chatting to people about well-being and resilience. So maybe we start there. What is well-being to you, and how do you actually implement that in your life?
Yeah, well, for me, as far as work goes, it's very much about being pulled towards your goals rather than feeling pushed towards them. So reconnecting to your why and constantly reminding yourself of that, balancing it out with things that you love doing outside of work, if you're lucky enough to love work. And being, like for me, it's being in nature and being at home and making sure I have good boundaries at home, and that's why I've created this space, is so I can remove work out of my home space, which I'm now defining as my sanctuary. So to have a space in the world that you can just go to and let go and be yourself and just shed kind of all of the crap that you've been going through on a day-to-day basis.
I love that, creating that space.
Yeah, creating space.
And about your why and the meaning.
Yeah.
Was there a time in your life when you didn't have that well-being, or you really had to focus on your well-being, or you made that decision?
Oh, regularly. So I always get out of balance with things. So even recently, just on Sunday, I've just got a restaurant and doing a fit out, and for the last 5 weeks I've been working every single day, and on Saturday I just hit the wall, and Sunday I just went to the beach and had a swim with my niece and nephew, played around, jumped around the rocks, went for a hike. So constantly there's no kind of, for me there's no end destination as far as well-being goes. It's a constant balancing act and a constant need to remind myself of the signs of burning out, because I've burnt out a few times, because you just go, and then all of a sudden you can't get out of bed. So being aware of those kind of warning signs as they're approaching and finding balance before it really knocks you over is constant balancing act for me. So
it sounds like you've got a fairly good handle on your why now. You talk about, was there a time when you didn't have that why in your life? And
yeah, definitely. I've a long time. Throughout school, you rarely know what you want to do, and connecting to values, and especially I grew up in a really conservative farming family, so which was great, but who I've become is so different to who I was. So finding myself and finding how to forge a career out of something that aligns with my values from such a different background has been really quite a journey. So throughout not being connected to who I am, or understanding my values, or understanding that I can create a career out of being true to myself, I was off the rails. For several years I would just kind of start a job and go, oh, this sucks so much. I can't do this. It's just not me. And everyone thought I was really, flippant, and I could do, I couldn't stick to anything. And so I didn't want to stick to anything. I always felt this deep desire to keep chasing something. There was something more. I didn't necessarily know what it was, but I knew what I didn't want, and it led me towards where I did want to go.
I'm really interested to hear, for someone who's come out the other side and obviously really made some big life choices, what that was like, that you know, that self-talk, you know, what your brain was telling you, what your self-esteem was like, what the day-to-day was like, and that pressure you felt. I mean, can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I came from, as I was kind of going through that pretty dark spot, I just had life circumstances kick me in the ass. Like, I was sexually assaulted, raped when I was 19. So, and that was in this kind of point of discovering myself and figuring out where I wanted to do. So my self-esteem just crashed out. Like, I thought I was totally garbage. Like, I thought I was useless. I was only good for a piece of meat. And I just had no self-worth really at all. Sorry?
How did that happen? What happened? What situation? I don't have to talk about it, but if you're happy just to sort of give a rough, just I think it's something that's often not spoken about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was working, I had 2 businesses at the time, so in remedial massage, and they were going super well, and of the evening I would work at this bar. So one day one night working there and stuff, there was this guy and he was being super like intense and flirty, but what are you going to do? Like, you have to be nice, you know? And then after my shift, he asked for a lift to somebody because a taxi was full, and he, throughout the conversations of the night, knew kind of what suburb I lived in, which was north. Anyway, and yeah, long story short, I was super naive, and he was a massive predator, and it was just, taken advantage of. So I stayed in my apartment for about a week, and I only took myself to hospital because I had a really bad UTI. And then as soon as I was in hospital, they were saying, what's going on? Like, it's just a UTI, you don't have to be this sad. And I just was bawling my eyes out, and I said, I think I've been raped. So that was a long time to kind of get through that. I just walked away from the businesses I had, and just,
It's all too common, isn't it?
Really common, yeah. I didn't understand at the time really what had happened, because I'm like a strong woman, and to be so terrified to the point where you just can't move. I blamed myself for a long time because I couldn't move. Like, I couldn't move. It's not as if I was like pinned down. Well, it was a bit, but I could have fought and I didn't. So I blamed myself for a long time. And then as a result of that, I just didn't care. I just thought I was useless. My self-esteem was rock bottom. I didn't have any. I just was like, kind of gave up, really. And then and the first counsellor I ever saw suggested that I shouldn't go to the police because it sounded like my fault.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I couldn't believe it. So I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't tell my family for about a year after it happened, until I was just a mess. And my mum, she was like, what the hell has happened? And then it all came out.
So over that year?
I was just by myself. Like, I just beating myself up, thinking that it was my fault, and that, I could have done something about it. I should have done something about it. Because I didn't, I kind of not asked for it to happen, but let it happen. So as you could imagine, like, it was just brutal to be so alone. I was embarrassed. Like, I didn't want to tell anyone because the counsellor said it was my fault, and she's professional. Like, I guess she didn't say it was my fault, but it sounded like my fault.
It's victim blaming.
Yeah. So
so that year, what was that? I mean, that I can't imagine anything harder or more lonely or day by day. Like, what was your life like for that year?
The only way I can describe it is like that year of being numb, like totally numb. I wasn't crying, I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, I wasn't happy, I wasn't anything. I was just dead. Like, I felt like I was walking around dead. And because I didn't have any connection to who I was or what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, like I just felt like I was a shell with no purpose and nothing to strive for. So.
And what happened? It sounds like you reached out or you started to talk, or was there something that sparked that? Or?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a brilliant idea to move to Byron Bay, like one day to the next. And that was where I was at. Like that's how spontaneous or broken I was. So one day, I think it was after I'd kind of just been home for a while at my parents' place, and I was like, the next day I packed my car. I was like, oh, by the way, I'm moving to Byron Bay today.
Wow.
See ya. And I got to Byron Bay and turned around and drove home. Well, back to mum and dad's, and halfway home, I just started bawling, and I called my sister and I called my mum, and I was like, listen, I can't do life. This has happened to me. I'm on my way home. Catch me. So, yeah, I was pretty down and out for a while after that. So,
what do you think people? They must have been shocked and horrified. I mean, I imagine. What do you think people saw from the outside? Because I think for survivors of sexual assault, you know, I think that's an important conversation to have around what do you think, as you went through that, what do you think people around you, when you think about your well-being and your general day-to-day, what do you think they were seeing or thinking?
Well, I made a very conscious effort not to have people around me. So I just withdrew from all my friends. I intentionally fought with my friends so they would hate me. I didn't want anyone to be close to me. And I mean, by all accounts, I didn't exist to people. The only people that could see me were my family. The only people I wanted to see me were my family, and even then I didn't want to be seen. I just wanted to hide away from life, pretend I didn't exist. So people saw nothing because I made it that way. Coming out of that phase is probably the wrong way because I've never escaped it. But I went kind of from one extreme to the next. Like I was the life of the party and would be like the loud kind of one cracking jokes all the time and need to be seen and need to be acknowledged, and you know, it was
wow.
Yeah.
What happened there? What was that flip?
Not a healthy one, that's for sure. I don't know, it's just I don't have a reason for it. Nothing really happened. It was just my brain just went snap, and yeah, I just don't think it's like a healthy kind of like I'm bouncing out of this. I think it was just like, you know, when the kind of pendulum swings one way so long, it comes back equally hard the other way. So for me, and now like after loads of I managed to kind of reach out to a counsellor again after a lot of skepticism. I remember my first session with her, it's like this the whole time. I wasn't giving anything. I was like, you want to work with me, then you show me you're worth it. I'm not opening up to you until not happening. So she had her work cut out for her, poor thing.
But that's her job. And that's after that first experience. I think just mentioning it's really important thing to mention for everyone. When you see someone change, when you see someone's behaviour change or their day-to-day and they have a change in personality or they start to withdraw or they start to act differently, should ring some warning bells. Yeah, definitely. You know, I think that's...
And if they're if result of that is that they treat you poorly, or it's more than likely not intentional. My behaviour, although it was a conscious decision to push people away from me, was not something to be taken personally by those people I was pushing away. I understand how they couldn't see that at the time, like they had no context to my behaviour.
Yeah.
But it's if it is happening to people, then just hold the space, keep it open, always offer help if it's possible for you to do that. Check in despite me hanging up on phone calls time and time again. It was I know.
And you are an inspiration, I think, because we're, as a survivor of sexual assault and to where you are now, independent, strong, successful woman, but you have had, that's not the only challenge, really large challenge. You've had a few cracking life challenges in your life, and I don't want to dwell on them, but I think it's great to know that people think, overnight success.
Oh gosh, far from it. Like, I mean, obviously you want to promote your business's success and its wins and everything, but I mean, it's an iceberg. Like, the wins are that tip of the iceberg, and all the hard work, all the failures, and failures is something I took so personally, because I see around me like business people and they're killing it and they're like kicking goals, and then I would just say, I'm not worthy of this. I'm not worthy to have my own business. And that was coming from obviously my past, but like, I have no right to be even trying. I'm failing. I suck. Like, what am I doing? And like, I was at a runway show doing a big runway in Seattle for Eco Fashion Week.
Wow.
Had my own show. Like, I went from 0 to 100 I had never even been to a runway show. And like 2 weeks before I flew over there, I was like, I better go to one. There's one locally happening. I'll go and see what they're about and how to do it. Because I thought I had an idea. I had no idea. But I did it anyway. And all the media there was like, this was so unique. I was like, was it? I was trying to be the same. Cool. So, and everyone was talking about it so big. But behind the scenes, I was like, cool. I don't know.
That's amazing.
So and often and at that time when everyone was writing about it, I would write like, oh yeah, totally nailed it. I know what I'm doing. But like later I was like, I don't want that attitude. Like, that's not me. Like, I totally winged it. Which is what everyone does.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the outside often doesn't match the inside.
Yeah, totally.
So how did you do that? How did you go from that year of hell? How did you, talking to your family, Byron, but how did you then go from there? Because you have had health challenges as well, I think. So how did you go from there to Seattle?
Yeah. Asking for help as much as I didn't want to. As much as I just wanted genuinely to stay hidden. I saw people struggling so much more than me, like in developing countries, in my travels and stuff. And I said to myself, like, I have in my life, I have an opportunity to do good things, to do things that are bigger than me, and so are going to help so many more people than me, which is part of the reason why I studied psychology. I wanted to understand why bad people did bad things or what made them bad. But then I ended up kind of getting into more positive psychology, despite not being positive at all. But it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And why people do good things and what motivates people to want to create a good world. And then, which led me to social enterprise and I needed to, in order to get to that, what I wanted to do, was starting to connect with my values and with myself a lot more again.
What you said before, you learnt a lot. Talk about where you went to developing countries and what you learnt.
Yeah, well, I went to Thailand as well, but like rural Thailand, not the shiny, glossy tourist version. I went to an elephant rescue centre there and kind of just hung out with the elephants. And there I saw people like really struggling. That was kind of my first trip to developing country. And then India again, that was intense. I was really not mentally prepared for what I saw there. Nepal as well, I went hiking in the Himalayas and thought, I'm going hiking in the Himalayas, I'm such an adventurer. And I was smacked in the face with reality then as well. Just seeing such poverty and such hardship while you're there with your $300 backpack and $200 boots and marching up a hill because you can. It's just, really confused me. I like to not go with any plans or expectations when I travel, so I'll not see what the shiny brochures want me to see. I see it all.
Yes.
And then once you see it all and you realise how much work there is to do to create equality and to create enough for everyone, you just realise how screwed up the system is and how weird everything is to distract you from what's going on.
And so you came back to Australia and took that purpose into your business.
Definitely.
And how is that? Talk about that journey.
Well, I am a big fan of doing what you can.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the resources or the network or the funding to make huge grand gestures, but I did what I could. So I found a organisation that plants trees. So it didn't cost much at all, like $1 from every sale could plant a tree.
Wow.
So I committed to planting food trees in African food forests for every piece sold. And that was something I was really committed to. I wanted kind of to celebrate the cultures within Australia, especially Indigenous cultures. So I partnered with a few Indigenous artists in rural, remote Australia, where I would send parcels of wooden jewellery to them, and and a burner. So I'd lend a burner to them, and then they would burn on it and share their stories and everything, and share who they were, just to keep culture alive.
Fantastic.
Which is really cool, and also to like provide income to an extent. I wish it was a lot more successful than it was. And then I went to Nepal and sat down with communities there and showed them how to make beads out of the earthquake rubble after the earthquake in 2015. And then, sat down with them and started the project there to help rebuild their community centre as well. So I'm still a bit off, a bit away from that goal, but I'm certain I'll get there. I'm too stubborn not to. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I wanted to, and I plan on doing a lot more as well as I grow. My reason for growth and reason for pushing is outside of myself. So it gets me out of bed every day, and makes me pretty determined.
That's an amazing story. I love the beads. I mean, that's just turning earthquake rubble into jewellery. I mean, it's just such a... How do you come up with those concepts?
Well, it's a metaphor for kind of my life. So, and the whole upcycling of waste and everything was just more of a metaphor, not just environmental kind of impact and the fact that we don't need near enough, as much resources as what we consume. It was like you can transform something broken into something new and better. You just need to spend time with it. So, and that was like a metaphor for my life, really. I could transform out of my broken self into a new self. I just needed to nurture.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's pretty profound.
Thanks. It's come from a pretty dark space, but yeah, I'm a big advocate for it, so yeah.
And so you're actually doing that, living that, and creating a business and a lifestyle, and it sounds like getting more from what you're doing from others as well. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't take the chances, I wouldn't take the risks, so I wouldn't put myself out there just for the sake of it. Like, money doesn't interest me that much for me. Like, it's never been a goal of mine to be like super rich or super successful or super famous or anything. My drive comes from doing something about this screwed up world. Yes.
Yeah, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
And we talked before about failure. Can you talk about, because people sometimes have these ideas and try it, and startups, like 97% fail.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you have any examples or how you can take crisis or challenge or failure and sounds like you just kept rolling.
Yeah.
You didn't stop, you know.
I think that's what it is. I think startups have a 100% failure rate because they evolve into something else all the time. Like nothing is stagnant. Everything fails. And by fails, I mean it takes on new challenges and new growth to become resilient, become stronger, become more diverse, and everything fails. You ask any startup, like if they're still exactly the same as when they started, I put money on it that they would say no.
Yep.
So even the successful ones or the ones that succeeded are just the ones that didn't let go, that rolled into something else. And, you know, sometimes like there's things out of our control, like we run out of money and it's just not possible to stay alive, and you didn't roll into something new faster or sooner. You know, you got stuck in your own way or something, or there's some circumstances that you're just out of your control. But I bet every single startup that has gotten past or is in that percentage, they failed too. So everyone fails. But it's just how you evolve and how willing you are to get out of your own way and to listen to others and learn from other people's mistakes. Try not to learn from yours, just learn from other people's.
That's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to misquote it, but it's that it's not the strongest or smartest.
Yeah.
It's the people who can adapt and evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So, yeah, I mean, what I'm doing now is same values, but very different from where I thought it would go when I first started. So I wanted to set up manufacturing hubs in rural, remote Australia with Indigenous communities and do more of the like art side of things. And now I've just bought a restaurant that's going to be like an interactive showroom for the products. And
wow.
Yeah, so it's really quite like, and you got to let go and just flow with it, and strategically, obviously, not just randomly on the cuff kind of thing.
Yeah. Like
ask for advice, have great accountants, great financial advisors, even better lawyers, especially that last one. And allow other people's advice and expertise in, because my biggest asset, I think, is that I know I don't know much, and getting experts in and listening to people is, I think, why I succeed and why I grow so quickly, and why people are like, what the hell? Like, now you're doing this? And I'm like, yeah, well, I just flow with the advice and strategies that I hear, and just get out of my own way. I just orchestrate it. I don't lead it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So go with the flow,
and
listen, and get out of your own way.
And be fearless. Yeah, I think, which is a lot harder to achieve than it is to say.
So, and that's probably the last question, I think, for you is for people watching who, many of us are filled by fear. How can they start to be fearless? How do you do it?
How do I do it is probably a bit weird, but I'll share it with you anyway. When I was in Thailand, I had this moment of realization where I just felt connected to everything. And then with studying quantum physics and stuff, scientifically, because that's what my mind is geared towards, is like evidence and facts and science, not kind of wishy-washy beliefs or opinions, is that I kind of more understood the quantum reality. Sounds a bit weird.
No.
And realised that I'm just frequency and vibration and temporary. I'm so temporary and so a part of everything around me. I'm not that special because I'm part of everything, and part of the wood behind you, and part of you, and we're all part of it. It's just society's kind of, in my opinion, individualized us and separated us and taken us away from our power.
Yes.
And our power is realizing we're everything. So if you have a dream and have an intention, you just need to hold on to it long enough for reality to arrange itself to open up that door.
Yes.
So my big saying is hold on to your dreams long enough for reality to catch up. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much for joining us on Unpack with an amazing woman who has just showed such resilience and success and fearlessness. Remember, we want to shake up the conversation around well-being and mental health. So share, like, comment, subscribe, because we want to smash the stigma around this issue. So please be kind to yourself, be kind to people around you, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much.